Hi everyone, I'm Satomi from Japan Bread Baking Class. Today I'm going to share with you the best loaf of white sandwich bread. It's incredibly soft inside and outside, and it is perfect for sandwiches. I'll also share lots of tips to help your sandwich loaf stay fresh for days. The first step is to adjust the water temperature so that the dough temperature reaches between 26 to 28 degrees. This range is the best temperature for yeast activity and gluten development. And if the dough temperature reaches this range, you can more easily predict the proofing time. Right now in Japan, it's winter and the room temperature is around 20 degrees, so I use water at about 38 degrees. But when it's summer, the room temperature can be nearly 30 degrees and I use iced water instead. Please adjust the water temperature according to your room temperature. But do not use water over 40 degrees as it kills the yeast. Once you adjust the water temperature, add all the dry ingredients to the stand mixer bowl. To make a fluffy sandwich loaf, make sure to use bread flour with a protein content between 12 to 13%. This will create strong gluten to trap gas and make a fluffy texture. Then add sugar, salt, instant dry yeast, and skimmed milk powder. I use skimmed milk powder for this bread instead of whole milk because I want the bread to be much fluffier. Whole milk contains fat, which can prevent gluten from forming properly. Since we need to make strong gluten for the bread, I prefer to use skimmed milk. But if you don't have skimmed milk powder, you can substitute it with whole milk. Check the description box below to see how to do it. Once you combine all the dry ingredients, mix them with a spatula to help them absorb water evenly. Add water and give it a rough mix. Then set the bowl on a stand mixer with the dough hook attached. Start mixing on low speed until there are no more flour points. Then turn the speed to medium and knead for about 10 minutes. I usually set my KitchenAid to level 4. At this stage, the dough looks shaggy, but it will come together later, so you don't need to add extra flour unless your dough looks really runny. You may need to scrape down the side or bottom of the bowl with a spatula if the dough sticks there. After kneading for about 10 minutes, you can do the window pane test. What you do is basically take a small piece of dough and gently stretch it with your fingers little by little. When you see the dough stretching, you can add the softened butter. Start mixing again on medium speed and knead for another 10 to 15 minutes. Sometimes the butter sticks to the side of the bowl, so scrape it down and make sure all the butter mix well with the dough. The dough looks smooth and elastic after 13 minutes. I do window pane test again to check if the dough has kneaded enough. If the dough stretches very thin without tearing, you pass the window pane test. If the dough tears easily and you can't stretch it, you need to knead the dough another 5 minutes and do the window pane test again. To develop strong gluten, use the slam and fold method. Take the dough from the side and slam it onto the work surface, then fold it. When you slam the dough, pull it slightly towards yourself to stretch it and strengthen the gluten structure. Repeat the slam and fold about 20 times. Before proofing, check the dough temperature. If it's between 26 to 28 degrees, it's perfect. If it's below 26 degrees, the proofing will take much longer. If it's above 28 degrees, the proofing will go faster, so keep an eye on it. Shape the dough into a nice smooth ball. When you shape a dough, it's important to create surface tension because the dough will expand and have elasticity after proofing. Place the dough in a bowl, then cover with a damp towel. Let it proof in a warm place until more than doubled in size. Now the dough has risen more than double. This time the dough temperature was 27 degrees and it took nearly 1 hour in a 30 degrees proofer. Do the finger test to check if it's proofed correctly. Sprinkle a little flour in the center of the dough and poke it with your finger. If the hole remains and you can see some bubbles on the surface, the dough proofed properly. If the hole shrinks back and becomes smaller, it means the dough hasn't relaxed enough yet, so let it proof for a bit longer and check again. Lightly sprinkle some flour on the dough and press out the air. Take the dough out of the bowl using a dough scraper and place it on the work surface with the top side facing up. From now on, make sure to keep the surface facing out so that your bread turns out beautifully. Weigh the total amount of dough and cut the dough into 3 equal portions using a dough scraper. When dividing the dough, place it in an oval shape and cut it into 3 parts. This will give the dough a rectangular shape and it's easier to shape in a bowl while keeping the surface on the outside. Shape each piece into a smooth ball. First, flip the dough over and fold the dough in half. Flip it over again and fold in half. Do it one more time and place the dough ball on your pan with the seam side down. Then tuck the sides underneath using the other hand and clear the surface tension. Do the same with the rest of the dough. Cover with a damp towel to prevent from drying out and let them rest for about 20 minutes until the dough relaxes. While resting the dough balls, lightly grease a Pullman pan with the oil or butter. It's been 20 minutes. When you touch the dough ball, it should feel soft and relaxed. If you feel strong tightness, let them rest for another 5 to 10 minutes and check the tension again. Now it's time for shaping the dough. Sprinkle a bit of flour on the dough and press the air out. Flip the dough over and roll from the center to the top and bottom. You don't need to roll all the way to the edges. Instead, gather the dough at the edges and roll from the side to side to shape it in a rectangle. Fold the dough from the sides, slightly overlapping at the center. Gently roll the dough to seal the seam and flatten it evenly. Fold the top edge a little bit tighter and roll the dough up as you go. Then pinch the end of the roll to seal. The first rolled dough you made should be placed in the center of the Pullman pan. Make sure to place the dough seam side down and all 3 dough ends are facing the same direction. Cover the mold with plastic wrap or a shower cap and let it rise to about 80 to 90% of the head of the mold in a warm place. When you have about 30 minutes of proofing time left, start preheating the oven to 230 degrees. When the dough has risen to about 80 to 90% of the mold, slide the cover onto the Pullman Loaf pan. If you see any bubbles on top, you can poke them to release the air. Add the bread to the oven at 200 degrees and bake for about 25 to 30 minutes. Once baking is done, gently drop the mold onto the work surface 2 times to let the steam escape from the bread. Then, remove the bread from the mold and place it on the cooling rack. Please note that if the color of the loaf is lighter, you can increase the oven temperature by 10 degrees next time. And also, If your bread comes out smaller or overly risen, try adjust the proofing time, either shortening or extending it to achieve the perfect size. Remember, baking bread is all about learning from your mistakes. So don't worry if things don't go perfectly. Mistakes will help you improve your baking skills. After the bread has cooled completely, you can slice and enjoy it any way you like. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed making this bread. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more delicious recipes. Also, I'd like to know which bread recipe you'd like to see next. So feel free to leave a comment. Happy baking and I'll see you in the next video.